The USA Freedom Act, a very ironically named act, was set to expire in March, and the Senate was set to vote to re-enable it for another term, for however long they want it to go on. Now, there was a proposed amendment that would limit some of its powers, and it wasn't very much of an amendment. It was a very reasonable amendment. Get a warrant before searching someone's internet history. Unfortunately, when it came down to voting for this amendment, the Senate completely dropped the ball and forgot that the Constitution exists. The final vote was 59 yeas and 37 nays. One more positive vote would have given the amendment the 3/5 majority it needed to pass. In other words, you almost had some very basic protection against a kind of totalitarian, draconian national security measure. And then I always find it very hilariously ironic that anything that infringes on people's freedom in the United States usually has the word freedom in it. The USA Freedom Act being a very good example of that. Now, here's the thing. They needed one more vote to get that amendment to pass. Now, guess who didn't show up to the vote? That was Bernie Sanders. Now, Bernie Sanders had said previously that he was against this. He wanted this amendment in there to protect Americans. But when it came right down to it, he didn't even show up to vote, which shows exactly how important that actually was to him. And I think that this reveals a little bit more of what a lot of people are struggling to come to terms with. Bernie Sanders is the Democratic establishment now. He has some nice rhetoric, but he goes along with all the things that he doesn't agree with, or he allegedly doesn't agree with, by simply acquiescing to them. Now, of course, he didn't go in and actually vote against it. But he didn't do the simple job of standing up for what he believes in and simply casting a vote. The safest, most liberal, peaceful, guaranteed democratic right of simply voting for something. He couldn't even do that. And I think the reason is because he knows he wasn't supposed to. Do you think it's a coincidence that the one guy who doesn't show up to vote would have been that deciding vote? I think that was pretty much planned right from the beginning. Now, I want you to remember this. Every time the Democrats go out and they say Trump is the most totalitarian president that's ever existed, the guy who has no respect for the rules, no respect for the Constitution, and is constantly doing things that violate the law, all of which he is doing, that the Democrats just gave him and William Barr the ability to do so, when they could have stood up and defended that. They could have defended people's rights from this totalitarian president, as they allege. They didn't do it. They supported him in doing it. They gave him the power to go through your internet without any warrant. So I think it's really, I don't really have to tell you, my audience, this, but a lot of people do need to realize this. The Democrats are not for people, and that if you have some kind of idea that you have to vote for Joe Biden, or you shouldn't be able to vote, period, or maybe someone's going to come to your house and beat you up if you don't vote for him, that maybe that person doesn't know what they're talking about. And that to side with Biden, to side with the Democratic Party establishment, is to support the very thing that the Democratic Party claims that they're against. Hence the fallacy of the two-party system in bourgeois democracy, which Marxists are supposed to be against. Now, the Freedom Act was before the Senate this week. It passed the Democrat-controlled House by 278 to 136 in March, completely free of any restricting amendments. So not only did they vote essentially to allow that amendment to get skipped, they directly voted for it to even exist to begin with. They voted to continue it, and then they refused to vote in favor of an amendment that would limit its powers. So just try to remember that the next time the Democrats, or people who, more likely people who support the Democrats, want to run around and claim, oh, we think, Trump is evil and he needs to be stopped and he's totalitarian, and that you just gave him the power to do all of that. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.